Dear Mother, yesterday Seredan and I arrived in 6 Hills. The Arcanum at the Beacon have awarded us for our bravery in helping the people of Potter's Path. As you will recall from my previous letter, a void rift in Potter's Path resulted in the town being terrorized by undead. Sarah and I have been sent on a holiday of sorts as our reward for our assistance in disposing of the undead, to enjoy the festival at 6 Hills. We've been asked to be judges at the Brew Bash competition this year. I don't quite know what exactly we've agreed to yet, but it all sounds very fun. When we arrived in 6 Hills, we were approached by students at the local college here, the Millibrax College of Fine and Martial Arts, to participate in a sparring match. They insisted it was for a class assignment that they desperately needed to finish before enjoying the festivities. I don't think I would have agreed to the match if I weren't traveling with Sarah, but she seems willing to try anything once. Maybe more than once, just to make sure the first experience wasn't a fluke. We were teamed up with a somewhat nervous-looking half-orc named Ezra, who is a practicing wizard, and his travel companion, a metal warforged being who calls themselves Bolt. Rounding out our sparring team was a man named Victor. He cannot see, and I admit I was quite anxious at being on a team with someone with such a disability, whose combat technique of choice was knife throwing. On the opposing team were a group of college students. Aside from Bolt, who I later found out is at least 75 years old, all of the competitors on both teams were near the same age. A girl named Holly was the leader of the crew. She's studying to become a monk at the university here. There were a pair of twin tieflings named Malix and Nyx, a halfling blade dancer named Yinny, and rounding out the team was an obnoxious and self-absorbed rapier-wielding idiot named Brander. Remarkably, our little ragtag group was able to win the sparring match. Sarah was the only member of our team who had to tap out, but she was the focus of the majority of the attacks from the other team. The student's instructor, a half-orc named Crier, met us in the arena after the match, quite embarrassed by the behavior of some of his students. He seemed to know the warforged Bolt from when he, the professor, was a child. Professor Crier asked Holly to take us to Balin's Birth to get proper accommodations for the evening. As we arrived at Balin's Birth, a town primarily populated by goblins, we were greeted by a lovely goblin named Ceci. We discovered that she is the wife of the current Balin, or mayor, Balin Heck. She is also the official festival greeter and coordinator for the celebration at 6 Hills. She gave us the most lovely flower crowns and wristbands, crafted by the druids of Littlegal. I haven't taken mine off since receiving it. It reminds me of you. Ceci also gifted us with little booklets full of coupons to use during the festival. Holly then took us to the Whistling Bull, the finest inn in town. Upon arrival, we were joined by Holly's friend, Tess Darnathel. Tess is the daughter of the Darnathel noble house in Terrebonne. Tess is also a student at Millibrax College, studying to become a bard. It seems Millibrax attracts children from many affluent families. As Holly revealed, she is the daughter of a member of the Fall Court in Bleakwood Forest. Holly insisted on paying for room and board for all of us, as an apology for the sparring match earlier in the day. Sarah and I declined her offer, as the local Arcanum is footing the bill for us, but Ezra, Bolt, and Victor seemed grateful for her generosity. The rooms at this hotel are marvelous and very obviously magic. Each room transforms into whatever its guest desires. I managed to take a quick peek into everyone's rooms. Bolt's had a workbench. I'm not sure they even had a bed, but I don't suppose a being of their type requires sleep. Ezra's room was filled to the brim with books. He seems quite studious. I would expect nothing less with him being a wizard. Sarah's room was grand and had a glorious bathtub in the middle for her to enjoy a long soak. Victor's room was quite perplexing. It was pitch black with no windows and was filled with wind chimes. My room was just like home. I almost expected you to walk in with a fresh loaf of bread to share. Speaking of bread, we all dined together last night. Sarah ordered the most expensive food and drink available for us to enjoy. While we were dining, we were greeted by the mayor himself, Balin Heck. He gave Sarai and me a few tips and tricks for our judging duties the following day. Balin Heck was accompanied by Justicar Gren Whitehall of the local Arcanum. She seemed quite displeased by our charging our stay to the Arcanum. But I suppose you can't keep everyone happy all of the time. After Balin Heck and Justicar Whitehall left, we enjoyed the company of our sparring comrades. Sarai, always an open book, shared her plight in searching for answers for the cracking. She introduced us all to Craggy, through which the Choir of the Crags speaks to her. Sarai is from the Malagoth Mountains and a member of the Vanguard. She's a little quirky, but very likable. All of Ezra's anxious behavior made much more sense as he explained that he's a fugitive of sorts, carrying a book of his father's that the Arcanum is hunting for. Ezra mentioned that he is from Willow Creek Hollow, and I suddenly became even more interested in him and his book. Ezra is unable to read the book himself and has no idea why anyone would want it. I think I have an idea what it is he possesses. Ezra has hired Bolt as a sort of bodyguard, keeping an eye out and protecting him from any Arcanum that may discover his true identity. Bolt is quite interesting to me. They first became aware of life in a pile of refuse under the floating island of Manaport. They have spent the last 75 years scouring all of Aneria, searching for answers to understand who built them and why. Victor is another who has my interest piqued. Victor was not born blind, nor was he blinded by an accident. Rather, he chooses not to use his sight. His family are all members of the 8 Rings. His mother is the prime of the 4th ring, or the Ruby Wing, as he called it. Victor said he is taking a temporary leave of absence from the 4th ring, and that he works as a bounty hunter for the time being. A very curious one indeed. Sarai is the only one who knows of my past. She's been careful not to share it with the others. I am grateful for her friendship and would trust her implicitly, even if the trio hadn't admonished me to do so. I have been keeping in close touch with my employer through a magic ring he gave to me. I simply roll up a bit of parchment with a note on it, then magically pass it to him after saying a code word by pushing the parchment through the ring. He has asked me to keep a close eye on Ezra and to help protect the book. This morning we went to the opening ceremonies for the festival. It was quite fun to see the whole town decorated to the nines. There was a lovely hum of excitement in the air. Balin Heck welcomed everyone. He outlined the events for the day. In addition to the Brew Bash, there will be a bounder race for both professionals and amateurs, a boulder bonk, an alchemical triathlon, and a play to end the night. Sarai and I will be joined by Ignis Sal from Salsport and Ainor Elovir, a gnome chef from Willow Creek Hollow, as judges. It seems as if Ainor has not yet arrived, however. I do hope she is okay. We just finished up a visit at Nico's sweet shop and loaded up our satchels and bags with some handcrafted magical sweets. Father would likely die of shock to see my purchases. Sarai and I are now both proud owners of our own owlbear snuggle beasts. Bolt is the proud owner of a magical seatbelt. The day has just begun, but there is still so much fun to be had. Love, Eve.